Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of She Coaches Coaches. I'm so glad you are here. It is a gorgeous summer day out there, and I just had to close the blinds on my little she shed so that I was not going to be so hot and sweaty while I'm recording this interview. I know that you're going to enjoy this conversation as much as I do, and I wanted to introduce this woman to you. I found her kind of randomly on LinkedIn. And then I watched what she did and I thought, oh my gosh, you guys need to meet her too. So let me tell you about her. Her name is Clarene Mitchell, and she is the founder and CEO of TCM Communications. It's a social media branding firm based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Her company, TCM, focuses on empowering success-driven entrepreneurs and corporate leaders to effectively leverage LinkedIn to generate organic results. Clarene, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Candy. I'm honored to have time with you. You know, I'm I'm guessing one of zillion fans of your She Shed. And
right? I know.
You don't already have a fan.
Nobody knows me, but they know my shed.
Like, I'm volunteering to be the president of the Candy She Shed Club, but it's so nice to have time with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know that when I reached out to you originally, you were sort of like, you want to talk to me on your podcast? Okay. I don't know. But so we start, before I hit record, I told you why. And so Clarene is an OG on LinkedIn. Tell them how long you've been using LinkedIn, like not casually, right?
Oh, I've had a LinkedIn account for, I think, 17 years, but I didn't start actively and strategically start using it until 2016.
Okay.
Fall of 2016. And it's been, full throttle ever since then.
Do you mind if I ask, why did you start
Okay,
strategically using it? What?
When you say the disclaimer, do you mind? It's like, okay, what is she about to ask me already? And we just started the conversation.
I'm so sorry.
Disclaimers make me pause. It's like,
Oh, I'm not going to ask you anything horribly difficult. Really?
Okay.
But I am really curious. Like, we all have this moment, right? Where we're like, something shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And, you just said 2016 approximately is when you decided to strategically use LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what was the thing that said, yeah, I gotta dive in here?
Most definitely. It wasn't by, a casual kind of process. It was intentional and strategic again, because I was in the process of trying to rebuild my life professionally. I had a traumatic job loss in October of 2016, started using LinkedIn more consistently because I needed a job. And, many people have that thought in our heads that, oh, LinkedIn is just there for when you need a job. I was guilty of that until I started using it more consistently and strategically back then in 2016 and early 2017, and started like, wait a minute, I can do this here on LinkedIn. When did that happen? I can do this too. And started getting results organically. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's so much more to this platform that I've been missing out on. And I've been hooked ever since.
That's amazing. And when I think about that, like, that's 8 years essentially, because we're 2024 right now. So 8 years, I can only imagine how the platform has changed since you started, right?
It has changed a lot, and especially the past few years. It's been, I say, maybe I call it like on steroids with different features is added and, other changes, but it has evolved. It's not the platform a long ago that we could just load our information on and it be very boring or very restrictive or, very conservative to a certain extent, where it's all
Mm.
button shirt and very stiff and rigid. No, that it has evolved and there's so much potential in the platform if people would just embrace it and lean into it and learn the best practices and leverage it accordingly.
I think people don't lean into it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts. How much time do we have?
We have lots of time. What are your thoughts? And I'm asking because I'm curious, but I know why I didn't. But I'm curious what your experience is. You've got so much experience here.
Oh, thank you. And even just for my conversations with clients or in my sales calls with people, individuals, for one, again, going back to my point, people still thinking LinkedIn is just for when you need a job. There's a wealth of opportunities for executives and entrepreneurs and others on the platform, not when just you're in job seeker mode. The other part of it too is how I say LinkedIn is the underdog of social media platforms, meaning, we hear the hype associated with the other platforms all the time, but LinkedIn is kind of like in the background. It's not up there in the discussion of the top whatever platforms. And because of that, it doesn't have the draw, the glitz and glamour kind of attraction or the shiny object attraction phenomenon that the other platforms have. So people forget about it or think, no, I'm going to still do whatever on the other platforms, but yet are missing out on all that can come because LinkedIn is more quality based than the
Mm-hmm.
other platforms. And I say that not just because of what the scope of my business is, but it's factual when it comes to the comparison of why LinkedIn was created versus the comparison of why the other platforms were created. When it comes to LinkedIn's mission and LinkedIn's vision compared to that of the other platforms, LinkedIn stands superior to those. So that's a part of why I think people just underestimate or undermine and don't really, you know, give it a chance or stick with it because you have to stick with it as well. You just can't get on one day and start using it and things happen overnight. That's very rare. It's a part of a consistency process that develops over time and people give up too quickly.
Yeah. And I can see that. And then the other piece is like, I know for me, I always thought, I thought it's boring. I mean, really, that's what I thought. Right. But then I was like, wait a minute. And this is something that I teach my clients. These are people who are new coaches wanting to start or launch or build a business, a coaching practice. And I'm always suggesting to them, like if you're going to spend your energy on a platform, go where your people are. Well,
That part.
my people are LinkedIn people, right? They're on LinkedIn. So why am I over on TikTok when, like the clock has turned on my age enough times that most of my people are not on TikTok. They're LinkedIn people. So instead of me thinking what's the most entertaining, go where my people are, right?
Go where your people are and where they have the mindset to do business. Yeah.
Mm.
My people may also be on YouTube. They may also be on Facebook. They may also be on whatever other platform. But when they're on those platforms, they may not be in the mindset to do business versus when they're on LinkedIn because it is the platform that's about professional and business purposes. So the engagement and the process is different because the mindset and the whole structure is different.
Yeah, and I can see that. I because so what I know about LinkedIn is that people are on there with a purpose, like you said.
Mhm.
And most of the people that are on there are interested in growing their growing their career, growing themselves. They're interested in investing,
Mhm.
business opportunities. And so, if you're in that kind of a space of personal growth, leadership development, they're already in that space that you referred to. Their head is already there, and then
Right.
they show up on LinkedIn. When I'm on Instagram, which believe me, I'm on Instagram, I'm there and I'm looking for dog videos. Like that is my thing. I like dog videos. so, new dogs, random dogs, fun things, right? I'm not thinking about personal development. I'm looking for the cute corgi. Come on.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about something. And when I explained it to you earlier, that the first thing that caught my imagination about your LinkedIn approach, and I know that there's a large depth of what you do, but it's what caught my imagination, caught my attention first, is you have
Okay.
these really cool weekly videos that you do. Talk to me about those videos because I think they're pretty neat.
I'm so loving this that you're confirming that my whole purpose in creating this series has been achieved, and it
Good.
continues to be having an impact. Sometimes we have these ideals and these visions, but it doesn't come out. But this is confirmation, so thank you. So what you're referring to is my Breakfast with Clarene series. And so typically every Monday morning, it's me sitting at my counter, eating breakfast and sharing a LinkedIn tip, insight, perspective, something LinkedIn related, because that's what I do business wise. I decided last year that I wanted to mix my content up, do something where people, because a part of my offerings for my business is I do speaking. And so if I'm doing speaking, people need more opportunities to see that, yes, I can speak, I can talk, I can very thoughtfully, I can articulate, I can put, share content with people in a different way than I do just on the news feed with, the captions. And I already have a LinkedIn Live series. So I'm like, what else can I do differently? Right. And that's the development of my Breakfast with Clarine videos. Just very organic. I record the videos. I will not say that I do them in one take because sometimes it just doesn't work because I try to be concise and I'm a talker. So sometimes I'm just going too long. So I have to redo it. But they're not highly produced videos. They're not the production that I put into my LinkedIn Lives. It's just I put my phone on my tripod, hit record. That's it, and I'm eating my breakfast, right? And sharing my thoughts about LinkedIn. And I've been surprised with the response to the videos, but again, it confirms that people need to see us, need to hear us, and it's a way for people to connect and relate to us at a whole different level when we do that. So that's it. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
It
yeah.
totally answers my question. And so for the listeners, you can look Clarine up. So it's Clarene Mitchell on LinkedIn, and she does these Monday conversations. And what's interesting about them is that, well, there's a lot of things that are interesting. The first is that she shows up as a human. She is a regular human having breakfast, yet she always relates something to do with LinkedIn with something to do with regular life. And so she creates that connection there. Now, for me, when she shows up as a human having an interesting conversation, they're not long, so they don't mean that I have to sit and watch for an hour.
Yep.
It reminds me that LinkedIn is about relationships. And I feel like I have just a hint of the kind of individual that she is. So, for those of you who post on social and think, oh, I never get any traction, let me just tell you what I see. So I see on average, she gets somewhere between 15 and 20 comments on these casual little videos and just as many likes, So, what do you notice is that people relate to other people. She is an expert on the platform. She brings her expertise, but she brings it in a human relationship building, casual way, and people connect with it. So that's the thing, right? Like it's that combination of all those things together. And she always dresses on brand.
You got well, that's what I was we're there together, Candy, because it's like I want to add. So I don't do a lot of production with that, but that part is always you're gonna see the my whole purple wardrobe because I do make sure that I'm still on brand with my purple. But it does also bring people into my home. You know, that happens when I do my LinkedIn lives when I'm at my in my office, right? So the casualness that's associated when I'm sitting at my counter, right, eating breakfast, and you see behind me when I'm doing those videos into my living room and off, you know, in the further in the background, my sunroom, and you know, you get a sense of how my home's decorated and it's never a mess. I always make sure everything is in order, everything is tidy, but it is the casualness of it and being able to build that know, like, and trust factor at a different level. And in addition to the numbers that you know, you share, it's the behind the scene numbers that I look at as well. And some people say, you know, why aren't you doing it on YouTube? Because for me, and you know, we have to do what works for us, right? And especially with our time and effort and, you know, being able to get the return on the investment. The number of views I get for those videos, hundreds,
Amazing.
right? That I put a video on YouTube and maybe it'll get 5 in months, you know, and maybe it's something I was doing wrong when I was doing them, but I never put this series on YouTube, but others. But my point is, again, as you said, they're short. So I try to keep them under 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. But again, the hundreds of videos per episode of viewers that I get is like, it's the return on my investment of time because so many more end up watching, viewing than those who react, engage. And those are the individuals that I'm building up the social capital with mentally, and that, you know, the deposits that are happening in their brain
Yes.
regarding Clarene. And when they need someone who does what I do, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm top of mind to them because I've built up that social capital in their brains, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. And so for the listeners, notice what we've got here. And also, when I'm looking at these, I can't don't know exactly what number you're at right now, but the one that I kind of just scrolled past as we were talking was she talks about it as episode 28 of 53.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what happens when you start one of these really interesting ideas and you don't know if it's going to work or it's not going to work. You
Mm,
can't do it 2 or 3 times and then say, oh, it didn't work, and then change tacks. You've got to decide you're going to do something, make it a reasonable investment of your time and energy, do it intentionally with a goal, such as build relationship,
right,
build that social capital, and then you get to
right.
stick with it. You get to keep going and trying and keep going and keep going and keep going. And then you see that return on investment, right?
Right, but unfortunately, well, okay, let me just say this. So, yes, so this week would have been or will be because I still will get it done this week, just been off track because of home repairs. But we have flexibility. We don't have to stay within the rigid schedules all the time. But having that pattern, but it will be episode 30, right? And then so intentionally, and I didn't do it the first it episode, but started then putting the episode number of 53 as for me, personality wise, I'm all about accountability and I'm all
Mm,
about showing up and being true to my word. And so having that there puts that pressure, and I'm saying that in a positive way, on me like, nope, not done yet. Got to keep going, got to keep going. It's just a matter, okay, when I get to episode 53, if I'm going to continue it into the new year or not. But I'm going to at least continue it to the end of the year to episode 53.
yeah. Right. And I think, and so, there's a lot of layers there. And what you speak about as a professional, you show all of these components of a professional approach. And so the people that listen to this show, they're professionals, but it's so easy for us when we're building a coaching practice or a new, smaller online business that we've never done before to forget that we have to show up exactly like we would have for our day job, right? Like our deliverables don't change in our day job just because we're
Right,
kind of like couldn't be bothered. It's like, no, you still got to do those KPIs. You still have to have those client
right,
meetings, right? You
right,
still got to do the stuff,
right.
right? Well, this is no different.
Show up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Still have
So
focus.
super powerful. And like you said, it's not super produced, you know, like
Mhm.
I think the only thing that is, the only thing I'd be really curious about is if you went and you took like next January, what would be week 54, if you reposted week 1, what would happen? Like, would it get a larger
Oh,
reach?
oh,
Would it, like, do you see it's not, and I know it's not about views, it's fun to get numbers, but it's about relationships
right. The
and
quality of those numbers
connections
behind.
and
Mhm.
this sort of this building this foundation, a strong, healthy foundation from one very intentional action.
And it's the whole thing of providing value.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get out of our heads and get out of the traditional sales process and the being, very all about us, so to speak, and provide value, provide resources and information. And that is what then helps, resonate with our target audience, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Cool. So, slight shift.
Here we go.
If See, so far I haven't said anything. I haven't asked you anything really weird. So,
No. Okay.
as a newer coach, someone who is a professional, we've had lives, we've got experience, and they were starting on LinkedIn, how would you recommend that they start? Just the brief highlight of how do you think is a great way for them to start on LinkedIn?
A great way to start is to be very intentional about building out their profiles. So that wealth of experience and expertise is easily, read, discovered. Also, then, slowly building their network
Hmm.
in a way where it's intentionally about quality people in that network versus the numbers. I'm so into LinkedIn analytics because it's just a valuable tool and resource. But there's one thing about having analytics, and then there's one thing about having numbers that are inflated or have no quality to them. So being very intentional about who they bring into their networks, and then create content. Don't be one of those individuals who are just out there scrolling and observing and consuming and not contributing, but creating content. Take it slow until they get into a rhythm or get the confidence up. But don't be one that just sits back on the sidelines, right? On the benches, bleachers, or whatever with the sports analogy. Get in the game and put your thoughts out there. The process, I think, going back to one of your initial questions about why people are not investing in time into LinkedIn, when it comes to content, people sometimes feel like mm, they want their content to be flawless, right?
Yeah.
Perfect, where they don't want to make any mistakes, so they feel like it's going to be some risk or whatever. Truth be told, people's our memories are very short, right? We can rebound, and nothing is set in stone. I even now still I make mistakes, typos, yes, or because my brain goes much faster than my fingers. Just I make mistakes with my content. But you know what? I built up such a community that people they either will, and this happened, especially early in my business, where people will send me a message, "Hey, Clarene, did you know you?" And I love it because, like, we're in here to get in this together. Thank you
Yeah.
for having my back. But either people will overlook it because they see the value of the overall post,
Hmm.
right? They know who I am as a person, and or they will send me a message and then I make the change because there's that edit option for our content, right?
Yeah.
So not overthinking content, getting into the game, creating content, and just understand we get better over time. When I look, it would be a lot to do because I post daily on LinkedIn. If I went back to content I created in 2016 or 2017, oh my goodness, it would be like, okay, Clarine, what was you thinking? Kind of conversation I will have with myself because my content has evolved over time because
Hmm.
I've been consistent pretty much daily since 2016 with my content. But not overthinking it. Getting started, you'll get better the more you stay with it.
Yeah. And there's a real permission piece there, right? Giving yourself the permission to, this is where
Mhm.
I'm at today. This is as good as I can do today. And doesn't have to be perfect to help
Nope.
somebody
That
or to
part.
educate somebody,
Right.
right? And who
Exactly.
knows? Who knows? It's the beginning of that relationship. It's like when you meet somebody at a social gathering, half the time I've got my foot in my mouth and I can't remember what I said, or oh my gosh, I
Right.
forgot their name or something like that. But
Right.
then, you give it time and you make a connection and you get to know them a little bit better. And before you know it, it's okay. And this is this don't have to be perfect thing. Wow. Well,
Right.
it feels like we've covered a lot. Is there anything before we wrap up today? Any one little thing that you would like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Hmm. Just again, that there's a wealth of opportunities on LinkedIn that's there for the taking. And it takes the individuals just them committing to the process, getting on and starting to use it, starting to dig in and learn and experiment with the platform. They'll be surprised with what they will see and discover. As you mentioned, the process has been for you, right?
Yeah,
So
right. And I'm still learning. I'm still like, what happens if I touch that button? Ooh.
it's not going to explode,
Yeah.
but hey, the knowledge you gained, right? A different way of, using it. But, for us to just own our brands, that's my biggest thing. We have to own our brands. We have to own our brilliance. We have to tell our own stories. And LinkedIn, so my background is in print journalism. I'm all about us telling our own stories. And LinkedIn is in this social media, digital driven world. LinkedIn rather is the ideal platform in which we can tell our stories in a very credible way.
Thank you. That's just great. So, Clarine, there's going to be people who want to find out more about you after they listen to this episode. What's the
Mhm.
easiest way for them to come and find you?
I'm sorry, it's kind of going to be very complicated, I guess, maybe, but it makes sense to me. Just go right to LinkedIn. Like,
Yeah.
I
it's
am,
it's
that's
on
what I
theme.
this is what I do. So going right to LinkedIn and checking out my profile. Mm.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining me today. I know that the conversation is going to be valuable for the listeners, and LinkedIn has staying power as well, right?
That's
And so this conversation also has staying power. So if it's 2025 or 2026 or who knows when, and you're listening to this episode, it still applies, right?
Wait a minute. I may not do breakfast with Clarine then, but
Might be lunch with Clarine then.
oh, that may be the next version. Okay, thank you, Candy.
Or cookies with Clarine.
Something. Okay, the food theme. Okay.
Yeah. You got another 3 years. You've got lunch with Clarine next year and dinner with Clarine the following year. And, you know, yeah. So there we go. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining me. Okay, listeners, you guys take it away. I would love it if you would check Clarene out on LinkedIn. Of course, I will put her website and profile on the episode notes, but I would highly recommend you go and have a look. You connect with her and you look at her to learn. This thing about these Monday sessions that she does, I want it to really give you permission to show up. And as Clarene says, be your own brilliant self. Think about what could you do where you could just show up as yourself on a regular basis and build that value and build those relationships with people who you would love to work with and who could certainly love to work with you as a coach. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great week. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be.